Guys, guess what? Did you know that Trisha Paytas is a good person now? She has a podcast where she talks about drama and exposes bad people. And did you know that she has mental illness?
Because I didn't know I had mental illness. I really didn't. And so it was untreated. I think people can live with mental illness, which is what I'm living with.
So don't you dare make fun of her. And don't talk about her past actions like committing domestic abuse and sexualizing children and dating an alleged pedophile and faking mental disorders and being homophobic and racist and anti-Semitic. She's changed. And did I mention that she has mental illness? Over the past year or so, I've seen a concerning trend on the internet where more and more people are starting to defend Trisha Paytas and starting to admit how much they love Trisha Paytas. I think part of this is because her podcast has been gaining popularity, so some people are trying to clout chase off of Trisha Paytas. I think part of this is just because a lot of people find Trisha funny and entertaining, so they ignore her past actions. And I think part of it is because some people genuinely believe that she's become a better person. Recently, Chapel Roan said that the #1 person she'd like to have a conversation with is Trisha Paytas.
I just need to talk to Trisha Paytas. I would love to talk to her.
And Rachel Ziegler also recently left a comment on a Trisha Paytas video saying, "Love this, Trish." So right now, some of the biggest celebrities in the world are showing their support for Trisha Paytas for some reason. There are also people posting videos on TikTok with thousands of likes saying things like, "One conversation with Trisha Paytas would fix my brain forever in a way decades of therapy could never. I feel like one conversation with Trisha Paytas would equal 5 years of therapy. Trisha Paytas is my Roman Empire. She is proof everything will be okay. When I'm having a bad day, I remind myself if Trisha can go through this, so can I. Trisha is my motivation and I love her so much. I actually love Trisha Paytas so much. I talk about her on a daily basis and she is my Lord and Savior. I love her so much. She noticed my comment one time and that was the best day of my life." So for whatever reason, there are a bunch of people on the internet right now who either don't give that much of a fuck about all of the horrible things Trisha Paytas did in the past, or they think that she has completely changed in the last couple years. And look, I think that Trisha probably has become a somewhat better person. I believe that everyone is capable of learning and growing from their past actions, but I do find it a bit suspicious that Trisha coincidentally started growing and maturing right around the time that being a racist troll stopped being profitable for her. Now on her podcast, she spends a bunch of time calling out problematic people and exposing abusers and acting like she's an arbiter of what's right and wrong. For example, she recently called out Cody Ko for allegedly sleeping with a 17-year-old when he was 25, which I agree is a good thing to call him out for, but has she apologized for all the tweets that she made about how much she wants to have sex with children when she was around the same age as Cody Ko? Of course not. She's called out Zach Justice for allegedly having a creepy relationship with a child when he was in his 20s, but has she apologized for dating someone who got arrested for taking naked pictures of a 3-year-old in a bathroom and then defending him? Not as far as I've seen. So I'm sorry, but I have absolutely no desire to listen to Trisha Paytas exposing people who she sees as problematic. And she's even said that she won't support Justin Timberlake anymore.
Trigger warning, Justin Timberlake is on my shirt. I do not support Justin Timberlake anymore.
I guess because he got a DUI and cheated on his wife. Well, all I know is that I personally think it's better to cheat on your wife than to beat your husband, Trisha. Maybe she has genuinely turned a new leaf and she's a better person now. Or maybe she's just doing what she's always done and is doing what is most profitable for her. And right now, the most profitable thing on the internet is exposing problematic people. I just find it so strange how many people on the internet have double standards when it comes to Trisha Paytas. There are a ton of people who will defend Trisha while simultaneously saying that they think Shane Dawson is a terrible person, when, in my opinion, Trisha is worse than Shane Dawson. They both have a history of wearing blackface and saying the N-word and joking about being attracted to children, but as far as I know, Trisha is the only one who has openly admitted to committing domestic abuse. And why are there so many people on the internet who who will defend Trisha Paytas but not defend Shane Dawson. In my opinion, I think a lot of it just boils down to the fact that there are a bunch of people who find Trisha more entertaining than Shane. And I also think Trisha is incredibly good at being manipulative and is incredibly good at weaponizing therapy speak and mental illness speak to get people to ignore her past actions. And to any Trisha fans watching this video, I of course think her struggles with BPD and addiction are totally valid. Just because I don't like Trisha as a person, that does not invalidate her struggles with mental illness. I do know that in the past she faked having dissociative identity disorder, but I don't think that she's faking having borderline personality disorder. But like, I also think that Kanye West's bipolar disorder is valid, but I don't think his tirades against Jews are valid. In the same way, I think that Trisha's borderline personality disorder is valid, but I don't think her tirades against Jews are valid.
Jewish people are cheap.
And to give Trisha credit, I think if you asked her if her past mental health struggles justified her actions, she would say no. I think she's smart enough to know that she shouldn't directly use her mental health to justify her actions, but I do think she's more subtly manipulative by always bringing up her past mental health struggles whenever her actions get called into question. I personally suffer from anxiety disorder. I take medication for my anxiety. I've had panic attacks so severe that I've had to be hospitalized, and I'm sure that my anxiety has influenced some of the dumb stuff I've said on the internet in the past. But you will never see me blaming my anxiety for my fuck-ups. And if I beat my girlfriend or said a bunch of racist shit, and then afterwards all I wanted to talk about was how much anxiety I have, I think people would rightfully make fun of me for this. And in the same way, if Trisha Paytas had a mental breakdown in 2021 because a bunch of people were criticizing her for being an anti-Semitic domestic abuser,
when you make those statements of being an anti-Semite, it's really damaging.
I don't think that she should be shielded from being made fun of just because of her mental health struggles. Two things can simultaneously be true. One, her mental health struggles are valid, and two, I think it's fine to make fun of her for being an anti-Semitic abuser. About a week ago, Trisha went on Rainn Wilson's podcast, also known as the actor who played Dwight in The Office. In the podcast, he made a couple of slightly rude jokes towards Trisha, which caused her fans to spam dislikes on the podcast, leave a bunch of negative comments, and then make a bunch of TikToks defending Trisha. And one of those videos defending her got 100,000 likes, so it isn't like this is just some random fan defending her that got like 10 likes or something. Let's go through the first TikTok that I saw defending Trisha.
I'm a huge Trisha fan, and I've been for literally ever. No matter what she did, I was always like on Team Trish, right?
All right, first red flag. You can be a fan of someone and also criticize their harmful actions. If you have always taken Trisha's side, even when she's done obviously terrible things, that doesn't make you a fan, that makes you a fanatic.
The new interview just came out, and everyone is so happy about this interview, and I've watched it twice, and I have an opinion. I feel like the interviewer was mocking her. I'm glad that she didn't open up too much to him, because there was so many pauses and moments where he would mock her for posting it online.
So, like I said before, mockery is not an inherently bad thing. If people post harmful things online, I think it's okay to mock them to a certain extent. The purpose of mockery on a social level is that we mock things we dislike in the hopes that by mocking them, this will discourage this behavior in the future. Now, obviously, mockery is not always a good thing, and mockery can easily turn into bullying if you take it too far. And even though Trisha has done a bunch of harmful shit in the past, I don't think that we should bully her necessarily. So let's see if the jokes that Rainn Wilson made about Trisha were bullying her.
I had a psychotic break in September of 2021.
What happened?
I went online. It's deleted now. I just went on Twitter. It wasn't even YouTube. And I just was like screaming, sobbing. Like I couldn't control myself. Like I couldn't breathe, shouting at people to like leave me alone.
And let me just pause you right there. What is it about you? And I'm just really trying to understand this. Like I'm so activated. I'm so angry. I'm so triggered. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm about to just lose my shit. I'm going to have a psychotic break.
Yeah.
but I gotta log in
Yeah.
and hit live stream and put it in the
Yeah.
tripod and press it and make sure my light's on. And now I'm gonna have the psychotic break.
Well, the lights weren't on.
What's the deal with that though? What is that impulse? And again, is it because you're getting that reward?
So this is the main clip that Trisha fans are really mad about. They're mad that Rainn Wilson made fun of her for recording her psychotic break. And I agree that men making fun of women for recording themselves when going through a mental episode can definitely be misogynistic. And if you remove the context of who Trisha is as a person and all of the things that she's done in the past, I would say that this joke is slightly insensitive. But the thing is, all that Trisha says here is that she was really triggered, but she doesn't bring up the fact that the reason she was triggered is because a bunch of people on the internet were criticizing her for being an anti-Semitic abuser.
When you make those statements of being an anti-Semite, it's really damaging.
And Trisha also has a long history of playing up her mental breakdowns to troll people and get more views. So when Trisha Paytas has a mental breakdown on the internet, it's kind of like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, where it's hard to know what is genuine and what is trolling. I'm not saying that's what happened here. I do believe that Trisha's mental breakdown in 2021 was genuine, but I'm sorry, I do find it a bit funny to make fun of someone for setting up a camera and recording themselves crying because a bunch of people on the internet are criticizing you for being an anti-Semite. If you're having a mental breakdown because a bunch of people on the internet are rightfully calling you a bigoted abuser, then I think that you should deal with this offline instead of getting online and crying for sympathy. Like I said, I do believe that Trisha's mental breakdown was genuine, but she's also not stupid. She knew that by crying on the internet when she's being accused of being an anti-Semite, this would cause a lot of her fans to come to her defense. And you can see that this strategy works because to this day, she still has hundreds of thousands of fans running to her defense. If you want to see Trisha's history of anti-Semitism, go check out the video I made about it a couple years ago. I think a couple of my arguments in that video don't hold up super well, but I do still stand behind my belief that Trisha is a troll who used anti-Semitism and racism to gain popularity.
You just found out about the Holocaust?
I had no idea.
I really love movies and books about the Holocaust.
Like, what's the stereotype about Jews? Like, my cheap Jew boyfriend with a big nose. I don't say that.
Jewish people are cheap.
I like the stereotypes of, like, their noses.
And you can say that all of this was just jokes, but in my opinion, racist jokes only work if you know that the person is joking. And Trisha's whole thing was to convince people that she wasn't joking. She used societal hatred against Black and Jewish people to make millions of dollars. So no, I don't give a fuck if Rainn Wilson slightly pokes fun at her.
But as someone that's watched her since she's been on YouTube since the beginning, Trish was a very, very lonely person with a lot of mental health issues, but in her deep core was so lonely and so lost.
I don't know why you would bring up the fact that Trisha was lonely as a justification for her actions. I don't give a fuck that Trisha was lonely. Obviously, I have empathy that loneliness is a difficult thing to deal with. I've been lonely at certain points in my life. But you know who else uses loneliness to justify their actions? Incels. Their whole thing is that they hate women because they're so lonely. And if you wouldn't justify incels' hatred towards women because they're lonely, then I don't give a fuck if Trisha being lonely is one of the reasons that she beat her boyfriend and sexualized children and spewed hatred towards Black and Jewish people.
I, in my own personal life, have posted things throughout the years that I definitely shouldn't have. And a lot of that was out of wanting to be heard, wanting to be validated, loneliness. And Trish, I mean, she's famous for it.
Okay, so you used to say a bunch of dumb shit on the internet, and you relate to Trisha because she also used to say a bunch of dumb shit on the internet, so now you're defending Trisha because defending her feels like it's defending yourself. Did I get that right? And at the end there, you acknowledge that Trisha became famous for saying harmful shit, so you know that Trisha made millions of dollars from harming people, which would be a perfect reason to not defend her. But you're defending her anyway away because you see yourself in her. Instead of defending her harmful shit by saying that you also did harmful shit, why not just acknowledge that what both of you did was bad?
I didn't like that he mocked her multiple times, saying things like along the lines of like, oh, well, so you just, go ahead and whip out your camera and get your hair ready and put the lighting ready. It's like, that's not what she did. She looked a wreck most of the time because she was a wreck on the inside. The lighting was never, like, I'm not understanding why he thought it was this whole production. She doesn't even edit.
So your criticism of Rainn Wilson is that he's wrong when he says that she would put on makeup and turn on the lights every time she would have a mental breakdown, because sometimes she wouldn't put on makeup or turn on the lights when having a mental breakdown. You got him there. She would put on makeup and turn the lights on for her videos where she defended Hitler or wore blackface or said the N-word or said that she was racist or defended dating an alleged pedophile. But for some specific videos where she was crying, she wouldn't put on makeup or turn the lights on. So Rainn Wilson debunked. The main reason she wouldn't wear makeup in the videos where she was crying is because she was trying to gain sympathy from her audience. That's why she isn't wearing makeup in her video where she's crying about everyone calling her an anti-Semite. I'm sure there's some truth to the idea that sometimes she wouldn't wear makeup because of genuine mental health struggles, but the problem is with Trisha, it is impossible to know what is being done because of genuine mental health struggles and what is being done to manipulate her audience.
I didn't really care for the interview. I loved seeing her in an interview fashion like that, but I want to see her being interviewed by someone that genuinely cares about her and that also genuinely knows her content and the lore, because I didn't like him in that interview at all, and I'm glad that Trisha didn't open up.
Translation, I want her to be interviewed by someone who won't make fun of her for the harmful shit that she did in the past, but will instead jerk her off the entire time by talking about how hard her mental health struggles were. And I know that Trisha fans are probably gonna attack me, so let me reiterate, I struggle with mental health, and I am the first person to always say that someone doing bad things does not invalidate their mental health struggles. But it pisses me off when someone is being asked about the harmful things that they did in the past, and all they want to talk about is their mental health struggles, because this plays into the ableist narrative that people only use their mental health struggles to deflect from having to take accountability for their actions.
So I think my journey online has showed that, because a lot of people would say I'm used to be very problematic online, because I just was unhinged in every single way. Some of it was drugs, some of it was mental illness, some of the combination together.
I would actually love to see an honest interview where Trisha sits down and acknowledges her past of anti-Semitism and domestic abuse and sexualizing children, and how all of this played into her mental breakdowns. But I don't want to watch an interview where Trisha clearly tries to avoid directly acknowledging any of her past actions because she knows that they make her look terrible, and then she turns around and gets mad at the interviewer because he didn't suck up to her the entire time. Trisha responded to this TikTok defending her by saying, "Thank you for this and your support. I really appreciate it. I don't think he was familiar at all with this part of my life like you mentioned. It's a lot of lore to keep up with. I felt very seen by this and validated that you understood almost exactly where I was at. Means more than you know. Thank you." In my opinion, the fact that Trisha responded so positively to this video defending her is just evidence that she hasn't actually changed as a person. If she had actually changed as a person, then she would take full accountability for her actions. And she would bring up how irrelevant it is to mention things like how she used to be lonely. But that would take actual integrity, and I don't think Trisha cares about integrity. She just cares about being loved. So if she sees that someone is defending her, she's gonna respond positively to it, even if the reasons that person is defending her are stupid. And I find it weird that Trisha is complaining that Rainn Wilson didn't know all of the lore about that part of her life. If he didn't know all the lore of that part of your life, then you would be lucky, because if he did know the lore, then he might have directly brought up your history of abuse and anti-Semitism. Saying he didn't know the lore makes it sound like he's a misogynist who doesn't bother to do his research before talking to women. But maybe he had heard about some of the lore, but he purposefully didn't bring it up because he knew bringing it up would make you look terrible. I saw a bunch of comments getting mad at Rainn for pushing Trisha to open up about her past by saying that this is a safe space.
It's online. I think if people know, they know, but it's actually, and a lot of it was.
Can you talk about it here? Is this a safe space?
It is, but I don't know if the internet's a safe space.
And yes, I agree that in some circumstances it would be manipulative to try to push someone to open up about their past, but I think it's sometimes okay for an interviewer to push a little bit if someone they're interviewing is being dodgy about their harmful past. There are a bunch of comments like, "This is a safe space, but the internet may not be," is such a polite way to set a boundary. This is the exact type of weaponizing therapy speak that pisses me off. Yes, people should be able to set boundaries if they don't want to talk about their past trauma. But is no one considering that the reason she might be setting this boundary is not because of trauma, but because she doesn't want to talk about her history of anti-Semitism? Like, if Kanye West refused to answer questions about his anti-Semitism because he was going through a really traumatic time while he was being anti-Semitic, would anyone see that as valid? This kind of reminds me of when Jonah Hill said it was against his boundaries for his girlfriend who was a surfing instructor to surf with men. Everyone should be able to set whatever boundaries they want to set, but some boundaries are reasonable and some boundaries are toxic. And I'm sorry, but I think setting a boundary that you don't want to talk about the fact that you got canceled for beating your boyfriend and being anti-Semitic is a toxic boundary. If you don't want to talk about your past at all, then leave the interview. But don't sit there and victimize yourself by talking about how traumatic the situation was and how you were so triggered and how it was so damaging for your mental health, while not even talking about the fact that the reason you were in the situation in the first place was for being an anti-Semitic abuser.
Like, sort of like a cancellation, and I've been through so many, but there was one specific cancellation that, like,
What
honestly,
happened?
it's like traumatic. I've never talked about it. Like, it's online. I think if people know, they know, because it is still so fresh, right? Like, it's a few years ago. A lot of it was brought on by me. I would say like 90% of it was definitely brought on by me because I couldn't handle the triggers that I was able to. There was just a situation I was in that triggered me a lot. And I'm putting it all on me and like not on anyone else. Like, it triggered me so much. And I thought I was like strong enough to like handle these triggers, but it didn't work.
And you want to know how I know that she doesn't want anyone to know about her past anti-Semitism? Because she falsely copyright claimed my video criticizing her. Thankfully, YouTube denied the copyright strike because they could see that the video was clearly fair use, but Trisha is clearly maliciously weaponizing the copyright system to try to silence criticism against her. If Trisha has truly changed and truly grown from her past actions, would she be trying to falsely copyright claim people to hide from her past? No, in my opinion, she is clearly trying to run from her past, and she is weaponizing therapy speak to avoid having to talk about her past. I think I've ranted about this for long enough now. As you can see, it really gets under my skin when people weaponize therapy speak and mental health speak to deflect from their actions. Hot take, but to me, it doesn't really seem like Trisha has changed all that much. I think she seems just as manipulative as ever. She's just gotten better at seeming woke because that's what's marketable right now to the young women that she wants to watch her podcast. You can tell that Trisha wants Gen Z to watch her podcast because on her podcast, she says that Rainn Wilson has Gen X humor, which just might not be compatible with Gen Z humor.
He knew he was being filmed, so I don't think he was trying to be rude, but also, you know what? Generational humor is different, right? Not to say whatever. I think he told me he was like Gen X or something like that. So I think like Gen X versus Gen Z is like this huge like gap of humor.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know what I
definitely.
mean?
Trisha, you are not Gen Z. You are a 36-year-old millennial. You are closer to being Gen X than you are to being Gen Z. But in my opinion, you are trying to market yourself to Gen Z because you know that young women are more easy to manipulate. Maybe that's why you saw no issue with dating a man who was arrested for taking naked pictures of a 3-year-old.
Had I not posted a picture with him and people just taking that and like running with it and just like finding out all this stuff, you know, I probably would have hung out with him again. And it's not because of his past and what people have found out or are accusing him of that I'm not talking to him anymore. It's just not fair to him because while this happened years ago, there's already been a judgment. It's not news. It's not, you know, it's not a thing that's current and he's trying to get past it. It's not fair to him.
And why you tweeted so many times about how attracted you are to children. To be clear, I don't know if Trisha is actually attracted to children. This was probably just more of her disgusting trolling. But all I know is that I hope young people are smart enough to not use Trisha Paytas as an arbiter for right and wrong, especially when Trisha is still actively actively running from her past and is weaponizing therapy speak and false copyright claims against anyone who dares make fun of her or criticize her. Until Trisha fully takes accountability for her past, I will still think that she is as manipulative as ever. And no matter how famous she gets, I have no desire to ever be on her stupid podcast. So anyway, Trisha, how about you try and falsely copyright claim this video as well and see how that goes for you. Fuck you. See you guys next time.